Welcome. In this video, I'm going to be going into weight loss and how one can use the elements to understand weight loss from a different perspective. And potentially this works in a multitude of ways, in a sense of maybe you're just interested in the topic from a symbolic point of view, and that's amazing. Definitely going to touch on the symbolism and the mind-body connection. Maybe you're also trying to lose weight, or you have lost weight and you're trying to work on your mindset to make it easier to keep the weight off. So I'm going to be touching on all of those different topics and diving into the why, really, of why we manifest this weight. And often when we understand more about what's going on underneath the surface, we come back towards the more energetic sides of these ailments and these accumulations in the body. It's easier to manifest long-term results and stop that yo-yo effect of not knowing why it's happening, a lot of unconscious things going on. So we're going to touch on all those things. And if you have any questions, be sure to send them on to elementalempressmedicine@gmail.com. This can be a very personal topic, and of course it affects everyone very differently. So generalizing to help a range of people through this video, but if you want to share your personal story or you have a question from what comes up, please do send that on. We're going to go into root causes of weight gain, why it happens, then going into metabolism and breath work to give ideas about why it has occurred and also how to move forward, and we'll finish up with practical next steps for transformation. So meeting you where you're at today, feeling good about where you're at today, no matter where that is, and then having some fun ways to move forward, to work with what you have. And with the elements, I always work with what's going on inside the body and what is easily available to us in our external world. So fire, air, earth, and water, they're accessible to everyone. It's not that you have to pay for them or gain access to them through a person. That's why I really love working with them, because they are so accessible to every person wherever they are. So we'll finish up with that, and hopefully that'll give you some ideas on how you can move forward. Why do we gain weight? This is an interesting question that I have contemplated as I've moved through different experiences and traumas and things in my life. Watching how my weight was affected by those things intrigues me, and I think it's really related to many different things. I'm going to bring it into the elements to give some perspective here. Mainly with weight loss, with weight gain even, I work with water and fire. So water is a lot where we hold on to things. It can be like water weight and edema that we're holding on to. So water building up in between the cells, and that can point towards emotional stagnation. And this was even a bit too wishy-washy for me at one stage, like, oh, I'm holding on to emotions, I want to release these emotions. And I'm a writer, I journal a lot, I talk about the benefits of journaling in most of my things because it just helps me so much. I know there's other ways that one can tap into that emotional body. Some people really enjoy dancing, some people enjoy singing, and these all have the same effect of getting a form of release, a form of expression. This really helps with weight gain. However, underneath that, I was really finding there was more to the weight loss, or even like the emotional stagnation, than I was aware of. And when I looked at the reflection a little bit more, took a deep breath, went a little bit deeper, I really found that the reason why I was holding on to the weights, the things, the padding that I was holding on to for that time, was because I didn't want to let go of who I was in those circumstances, in those relationships, in those experiences in my life. In letting go of the weight, it kind of meant essentially letting go of that version of myself, letting go of those people, letting go of those past experiences, and that was really daunting. And I felt I wanted to keep them, and I wasn't aware of that's why I was holding on to them for some time. And that can be a lot of why we hold on to it, especially with things that are quite close to home, like relationships and family and things like that. When things change significantly quite quickly, we can have this reflex of, okay, well, I'll keep the memories because that's in some way keeping it alive. And often those memories result in weight physically on the body or water retention within the body, and that's how it translates. And we can hold on to them. It's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. When we are ready and we are looking to release those things, it's nice to know that that can be the cause of what's happening, and integrating those things through writing about them, through talking about them, through processing who you're becoming and using the fire energy. So that's all water energy. Then you come through that and you use the fire energy to build a vision for the future. So getting the fiery, passionate energy going again to get excited about what is to come, who you are manifesting yourself into, and all of the passion that is arriving in your life in that moment and you're moving forward towards. So that results in metabolism, which we're going to talk about in a couple of slides. The weight gain behind all of that, I mentioned journaling quite a few times there and a few other things. Introspection really does give you your power back. Power is related to fire, the solar plexus, the I am. So if you are struggling with the weight just stagnating there, the power, getting back to your passions, your joy, that fiery energy is the way to get started. We have pulling back the layers. This is really how I feel journaling just gets into it. Other remedies of singing, and they're really great for just expression, and they're great for letting go of things even that we're not aware of. We don't need to be aware of them. But when we want to make big shifts in our lives, I really find that actually having the paper and pen and the accountability to show up is what makes a significant difference for some people who like this method. So our ability to self-reflect supports us in this process of releasing. We get to see what's going on, we get to metabolize it essentially, and we get to then release it. So it's kind of like a workout for your trauma, is how I'm going to describe journaling right now. Of course, you can just work out and you can just, get into that. So I like to do both, to be honest. I like to get the fire going internally with exercise and with breathing. And I also kind of like to know what's going on and why would I bother? You might be thinking like, well, it's just easier to just exercise. Well, the reason why I like to integrate in this way and sort of metabolize my experiences in this way, process that weight that I'm carrying, is because I often find that I gain a lot of wisdom from having this level of integration, having this level of awareness as I process my life experiences. If I just let them go, it tends to be I don't learn as much from them consciously, and often then that means I manifest them again unconsciously. That's the beauty of taking a little bit more time as you're going through this process. So if you are doing exercise to lose weight, you are trying to dive into why you continuously gain weight, having some sort of writing is really great to get that out into the open. If you really can't write, the next best thing is to talk. The one issue with talking is that you're often talking to a person. It's hard to talk to oneself, and when we're talking to a person, there tends to be some sort of filter because we're always thinking about maybe what they're going to say back, what they think of us, that kind of thing. So if you can find an unfiltered way to process, maybe you're singing a song, maybe you're making a video, something like that can be really helpful as well. Some reflective questions to support you with that process, and you can meditate on these or write about them. So what do I need to cushion myself from? I use reflective questions to speak to the symbolic side of what's going on, speaking to essentially what your ailment is enabling you to do, what it's actually helping you to do. And it comes from this idea that the body is always on your side. It always wants to support you. So when you have created this extra layer of fat around the body or water around the body, looking at what area it's protecting. So if it's protecting the digestive system, for example, that's indicative of us needing some more self-nourishment. We're not nourishing ourselves in the way that is feeling good for us, and we are then trying to protect our digestive system. And often it's to do with boundaries as well, like maybe we're having irritable bowel syndrome or difficulty within the digestive system, and that points towards our barriers and having leaky boundaries between us and the external world. And we can see that as an opportunity then to increase our energetic boundaries with people, learning how to say no, and then physically improving our gut microbiome, the diversity within our gut, increasing fiber and decreasing the amount of processed foods and chemicals that we're eating. Cushioning, of course, can happen in different areas of the body, and sometimes we need cushioning from a person, place, or thing. So taking this into your own experience and questioning in your life what you feel like you are providing this cushioning for, and what is it protecting you from. We then have the boundaries, which I touched on there, that feel good for me. So how can I create boundaries that feel good for me? Often I find that boundaries, it depends obviously who you are. If you're a carer type of person, really, boundaries can be needed often to secure your own self-care, to ensure that you are giving from a full cup. So with boundaries, it can feel like we just want to give and give, we want to work and work, and then we overdo it and we have an empty cup and we're burnt out. And this can then feel like we are exposed to the world, like we're not providing that cushioning. I don't know if you've ever felt that when you've had a really good day and you feel happy and you've maybe been out in nature, you feel recharged, you've had a really good sleep, someone tells you some bad news, it's like, okay, I can breathe into that, let's have a cup of tea and we can talk about it. You have this layer of cushion between you and the experience, you and the energy that you can use to integrate what's going on for you. Where if you are constantly drained and you're constantly using your full battery every day, you're recharging it up to 1/3, you're using it, recharging it up to 1/3, and then bad news comes along, it's almost like it hits you in the face and it's really intense. With that, keeping in mind what self-care feels good for you usually creates really good boundaries, and you can use the earth element. I definitely will do another video on that because it's an important topic. And lastly, how can I support myself in releasing all I no longer need? Essentially, what we're doing with weight gain is we're holding on to something. It's different for everyone. It can go as far back as childhood, and this is when I find guided meditations for body scannings are really helpful because they take the conscious mind out of the way and they're good for tapping into the subconscious mind. One can also do that through writing, and some people go all the way with it. They go into shamanic healing and they go into plant medicines. I've done all of the above. I find them all very helpful to understand what I want to release and how to release it. Whatever feels comfortable for you. If you're not doing this with a guide or any sort of support, I would do what you feel you are comfortable doing and you feel strong in doing. And if you want to experiment with something a bit more intense or something new, I would definitely recommend getting some support in doing that, because in releasing these energies, often we have to go through a phase of deeply feeling them, and this can be really intense. So we don't want to have to go through that alone, and no one has to go through that alone. There is plenty of support out there, and this is part of that boundaries, self-care, receiving energy, is accepting that sometimes we need support. That can be quite hard, and often when we need support, it's hard to ask for it. So if that is the case and you want to do a massive release and you want support, definitely find someone that resonates with you to support you on that journey. Great to have awareness of this here, ask yourself that question, and then if someone, you're almost opening yourself up to the universe for someone to send you the ideal person, because then you're more alert and aware to what you're needing in this point in time. Metabolism, an important factor obviously with this topic, an elemental perspective. I love looking at metabolism because it's in an interesting spot in the body that helps us unravel why this is happening. Metabolism is largely governed by the thyroid, which is in the throat chakra, and so it's very related to how we are finding a way to express ourselves. And there are two ways to have a look at this throat area here. Firstly, we have the breath. When we are breathing deeply, we are talking. If we want to talk a lot, it's like we inhale really deeply and we exhale fully and we have lots to say. And this is representative of a form of expression. So maybe you find this form of expression in writing books or writing blog posts or making a podcast, or maybe you do like to talk to a lot of individual people or groups. And this is indicative of us essentially working our light and speaking about things that we're passionate about. That is a great way to get your metabolism running on speed. If you're passionate about something, you're going to feel fiery when you're talking about it, and then you're breathing more, and it just starts to get your whole body in alignment with this beautiful fire. That is your soul light coming through, and it shines through your skin. It's like an amazing feeling. Secondly, with metabolism in this area of the body, if there is a block, it can be quite like a volcano in a sense that the top of the throat is like kind of like a block. And if you imagine a dormant volcano, you know, the solidified rock is like this much, and then there's a cavern underneath. It's filled with the lava, and then eventually it bubbles up and it bursts out. And when it bursts out, for us as people, it can often be in a way that's quite uncomfortable, that is unexpected. And it's a result of the fact that we have run out of energy to suppress it. So every time our light, our fire wants to come up and we don't allow it, then we suppress it. And this takes energy. And we could be using that energy for other things, but our resistance towards working our light and expressing our authentic self can be quite strong. The other way that it goes with this area, if the block isn't there, is that our fiery energy can flow through with ease, and we can experience creative energy kind of like a volcano releasing lava. You know, intermittently, there's many volcanoes that do this, and it just flows out the top, goes down to the ocean, and it makes earth. And this massive, huge, potent creative power of the earth is really subtle and non-eventful and not dramatic. It's just happening, and it's happening in its way. So that's the other way that we can flow with the creative energy coming from the throat space. And if your metabolism is really low, your temperature in your body might feel quite cold quite often. Linking all of these together as essentially there's a disconnection from fire, and if there's a disconnection from fire, there's a disconnection from our passion in life. There's a disconnection with our soul purpose, what we feel we are born to do, what we're gifted. You know, some people say everyone has a purpose, and I do agree. And when we tap into that purpose, we start to feel that fire within us grow. And often it's interesting to note that the people with the most layers, with the most like baggage and stuff accumulated, it tends to be that they have the strongest light behind all of that, because it's almost like the strongest light manifests all these layers of physical or like trauma or difficult life experiences. We manifest all these things so that it challenges the light to burn through all of them. And then when the light burns through all of them, it's like prepared for its big life mission. That might resonate with some of you. And take what you like and leave the rest. And we have some practical ways to increase fire. I've mentioned a couple of them already. We have aerobic exercise. We're mixing the movement in the body, the flow of blood, with the pumping of the lungs. And aerobic exercise is increasing the fire, and it's also cleansing the emotional body, because the emotional body is cleansed through the lungs. The lungs are where air meets water. So that's where a lot of the emotional cleansing occurs. Saunas are fantastic if you have an injury of some kind, or for some reason you are not able to physically get the internal fire in your body going. Sitting in a sauna and sweating is a great first step. It's very healing and a great preventative medicine as well, to be able to have access to a sauna once a month or every 2 weeks, because it brings out a different kinds of toxins from the body, because you're not having to move all your body and exercise for it. It's like a passive release, and you start to cleanse your emotional body in that way and connect more with fire. Breathwork is a more intensive form of aerobic exercise. You're sitting still and you're focusing on very, very deep breathing for a period of time between 10, 30, or 60 minutes. For this, you can get one online, YouTube, or you can hire a breathwork coach, or there's lots of different options for gaining access to breathwork. The simplest way that I guide people to do it is to just put a timer on your phone for 10 minutes and take deep breaths into the belly and into the chest for those 10 minutes, and continuing on until your timer stops. And it's really helpful to do some journaling, some writing, some reflection after doing the breathwork, because it can bring through a lot of stuff. It's really nice to do breathwork in groups because it keeps the motivation up and it feels supportive. Talking and singing, I touched on. You have to take deep breaths to release out the words, and that taps into the fire. So you can imagine talking and singing essentially like if you had a fire going in the garden, like in your barbecue or in your house, and you blew on the fire makes these really nice flames and it dances when we blow air into it, and there's good circulation. And this is the same within our bodies when we're talking and when we're singing. We're like feeding that fire with air, and that is then going to burn the fuel that we have in the body, which is stored fat and stored things. So we want to increase the circulation, increase the heat. That's going to burn away more of that weight. Hot foods, a nice, easy, simple way as well. For if you are struggling with finding heat in your body, finding your passion, having raw foods and cold foods can dampen your digestive system even further. So your stomach is the fiery spot, your solar plexus, your I ams, where your firehouse is. And if you know that at this time that you're feeling quite cold, support yourself in having hot teas, and you can have chai spice teas to get the spices in, spicy foods, and eating heated foods rather than salads or cold foods. And if you are eating cold foods, it's nice to have tea after them. And just noticing that that's where you are. It's not good or bad. There's always so many opinions on what's good foods and bad foods. So just going with what feels good for you right now, and knowing that that can support you in increasing your fire. Lastly, we have follow what lights you up. And I like this one. I like to describe it a little bit because, in a sense, it's follow what lights you up before it makes sense. Or, because sometimes people say like, well, that lights me up, but like, what am I going to do with that? Or maybe it lights you up and you're very focused on a certain career at the moment or a certain job, and it doesn't make sense, like they don't line up. It's just like follow those things that light you up and trust that it will fit into your path, that it will make sense, that it will guide you to maybe the soul tribe or the group of friends that you really wanted. It'll guide you into a more authentic expression in your business or in your current employment. Often it doesn't make sense in the beginning what lights us up and how it fits into our lives until we flow with it, we breathe into it, and we practice it for a while. Even if it is really small things. It could be knitting, it could be fire dancing, it could be cooking, just following it, reading about it, doing it, talking about it, and see where it goes, see where it leads you. And if there's a couple things, try out a few different things. Trying different things also lets you see what you're drawn to and what you're not drawn to, giving you that comparison. Those are some simple ways that you can get in touch with that fiery energy. To go a bit more into breathing, why it is so effective and why it is the biggest thing for weight loss. So it may feel like exercise and movement are the biggest thing to focus on for weight loss. I find that's actually not true. I find because we can still be avoidant of breathing while we're exercising, we can still do shallow breathing, and often that can just, what it generates is just a lot of anxiety and also frustration because we may not be losing the weight in the way that we would have liked. So with breathing, we are cleansing the emotional body, which is that water weight, which is related to why, the weight that we're carrying. Practicing embodiment in breathing, it brings us into the body. With exercise, again, we can still be in our minds, we can be listening to music, where when we are breathing really deeply, we are practicing being in the body, and the heart chakra, the heart space, and the lungs is the bridge between the spiritual self, the soul self, and the physical body. And when we practice breathing, we practice this feeling of like, I am safe inside my body. It is safe for me to be in my body. And often this is what we're dealing with weight gain and with avoidance of sensation in life, is that we have come to this conclusion for whatever reason, trauma, life experience, that it's not safe to be in the body. So breathing helps with that transition of mind and body. We increase its sensitivity, and this is really great to be able to increase sensitivity and to feel more into the body. It makes us have a more of a love and appreciation for the embodied experience. If we don't appreciate it, often we tend to abuse it more with poor foods and lack of self-care because we're not in tune with all it has to offer us, so then we lose touch. So increasing sensitivity, it can feel a bit alarming in the beginning. Like I said, definitely up the self-care to help you with that journey as you increase your sensitivity. Lastly, opening the heart space. We are tapping into emotions when we are breathing, and this opens the heart to receive. If you've been struggling to receive support, friendships, money, these kinds of things, it can often be a result of the hardening of this heart space. And breathing is a nice first step that you can take control of within yourself to make a shift in that area of life. It's vulnerable, it's hard, and it's something to do slowly, and is often something that's nice to do with a guide, if not a journal, to help you just process it as you move through it. Because those heart wounds can be very deep and they're not logical really at all. We can't think our way through them. It's very much we have to breathe into the feeling, let ourselves feel it, and let it wash over us. And we are strong enough to do that. For sure, it may feel like we're going to crumble, but we will not. We are definitely strong enough. A little bit more on breathing. Why do we stop breathing? This is so important for weight loss. I mean, I feel like this may be like, where are you going, Keeva? This is not about weight loss. Like, this is so in the midst of weight loss. Not breathing, the shallow breathing, is going to stop the pumping of the digestive system. It's going to lower the sensitivity in the body. It's going to stagnate the emotional body. All of these things are going to cause accumulation of weight within the body. So we have firstly stress. We're going to stop breathing if we're stressed. Feeling overwhelmed with what is in each moment. There's just too much going on. There's all this stimulation, all this fiery energy that's just coming at us. Our nervous system is working really hard, our adrenals are working really hard, and it just feels like overwhelm. So we don't want to breathe into it because it's just a lot of stimulation. And this is, again, our body being on our side because it is trying to manage a stressful situation, it's trying to protect you from getting overwhelmed. So you're going to start shallow breathing. And the remedy for that is to reduce the amount of things that are going on, reduce the stimulation, and therefore you will start breathing more deeply. Secondly, we have trauma, having memory in the body from the past. If we have memories within our bodies in different parts, it could be the pelvis, it could be the chest, it could be the head. We have a memory somewhere, and that's stored where it happened, wherever the energy resonates. We don't want to touch on it. So not breathing helps us to avoid touching on it and helps to keep it in storage. And thirdly, resistance, not wanting to feel how you're feeling. This is related to trauma in a sense, but it's also just a little bit more day to day. If you don't have the skills to feel how you're feeling and to flow with your emotions, it's easier to just not. And this is totally normal. We're not alone. Not many people are taught how to manage their emotions or how to flow with how they're feeling or how to even identify how they're feeling. Naturally, then, as humans, if we don't know what it is, we will just kind of try to look away, we'll try to suppress it, and that results in resistance. So these are 3 reasons you might see some that resonate with you, some that don't. And we always have the opportunity to embrace transformation, and I think the water element and the fire element work really well together here with weight loss to support you in this transformation. So flowing with the self-care starts with really accepting where you are right now and how that is absolutely perfect. And then the sun energy coming in as following the joy, following the passions in life. It doesn't have to be this arduous, treacherous hike out of your situation. You can find the fun in exactly where you are. And with the moon, or with the sun and water, or the sun and the moon, we have masculine and feminine energies. And flowing with action and relaxation to bring about positive change in life. And that's also how we find this joyful transformation, this ease of transition, is through action and relaxation. Knowing when to get up and go for that run, or go for the aerobic exercise, go to speak in front of a large audience of people about something you're really passionate about, and then having equal amounts of times when you are relaxing, you are oiling your skin, or having a nice bath, or journaling, those sorts of restorative, nurturing, fill your cup vibe stuff. Balancing those 2 out, and your transformation will just absolutely flow. It will happen naturally and much, much faster than you will think that it will happen. And that's kind of the fun part. It all comes back to the self-awareness, really. From all the things that we were talking about, I've gained a level of understanding of other people through my awareness of myself. And then being able to work with other people and understand what's going on for them, and seeing myself in them, and that is how this understanding has come about, and that's what I love to share with other people. Having an honest check-in with yourself is incredibly powerful, grounding all that we looked at here in the present moment for you. Take a look at where you are now and how you feel, being as honest as possible. So you can do that after you finish watching this presentation, just checking in honestly, how do you feel right now, and accepting that that is okay. Wherever that is, it will change in the next 5 minutes or in the next hour or in the next day. It will change. Accepting where you are right now and grounding, and you can move through the reflective questions that we touched on and some of the other things to dig into where you're at right now and painting the picture of where you're at right now in an honest way. So when we ground ourselves on the earth, when we come into the present moment, we come out of the mind of fantasies of where we want to be and the stories and what other people think, and we just come back to what is right now. And when we're aware of what is right now, we know our starting point. And from the starting point, we can take that first step. So we come back down onto the earth and we put one foot in front of the other. And that's a very important beginning to the transformational journey. Be sure to stay in touch. As I mentioned, you can send on your personal questions, stories, anything to elementalempressmedicine@gmail.com. And this is my webpage here, www.elementalempressmedicine.com. And I have a blog on there that is broken up into the elements: fire, air, earth, and water. So you can scroll through that and see if there's some topics that can help you with that. I also have other group classes as well that you can check out and see if any of them resonate with you. I also share on Instagram at Keeva Dagg, so be sure to follow me on there for little daily tidbits and elemental medicine messages from each day and some other bits and bobs. Thank you so much for watching. You are on the journey and you are amazing, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.